Most of us have heard it takes a village. It takes a village to raise children, it takes a village to solve complex challenges, it takes a village to advance human knowledge. Big science facilities are a great example of what it takes a village looks like in science. Without an incredibly diverse, specialized staff, a science research facility is just a building with some impressive equipment. The people, the village, are what makes groundbreaking research and discoveries possible. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Breakthrough, where we talk with experts about key contributions to scientific discoveries and technological advancements. I'm your host, Kelsey Underwood. When we think about scientific research, we often picture scientists at the center of it all, but they're only a small piece of the puzzle. At major facilities like the Atacama Large Millimeter submillimeter array, better known as ALMA, it takes technicians, engineers, maintenance crews, operation teams, communicators, and administrative staff working together to keep everything running. The world's most powerful radio astronomy observatory, ALMA, is located on the Chajnantor Plateau in Chile's Atacama Desert, where hundreds of people keep it running around the clock in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. What goes into running a facility like ALMA? Who makes it possible? And what's it like to work there? This month, I sat down with Paulina Bocaz, the AUI representative and National Radio Astronomy Observatory Assistant Director at ALMA. Nearly 20 years into her role, Paulina offers a unique perspective on the people, systems, and partnerships that keep it running. We talked about what makes the Atacama Desert uniquely suited for radio astronomy, the unseen work that keeps ALMA running, and why it turns into a lifelong career for so many. Before we begin, please note, the Atacama Large Millimeter submillimeter array is a global collaboration between the European Southern Observatory, the U.S. National Science Foundation's National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan, in cooperation with the Republic of Chile. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of ALMA's partner organizations. Now let's meet Paulina.
ALMA means soul in Spanish, which is a beautiful acronym, very much in contrast to a lot of observatories that have acronyms that are just superlatives.
My conversation with Paulina made it clear just how fitting this acronym is. Her enthusiasm when speaking about the observatory and the dedicated staff who operate it bring that meaning to life. Paulina is one of around 240 people working in Chile across ALMA-related organizations. The joint ALMA Observatory brings together about 220 local staff along with international partners who support operations across three primary sites: the Array Operations Site, known as the High Site, the Operations Support Facility, or Low Site, where technical and maintenance work is carried out, and the Central Office in Santiago, which oversees operational, data, and business functions. Paulina mostly works in a separate AUI National Radio Astronomy Observatory office in Santiago that collaborates closely with the joint ALMA Observatory.
My responsibilities include supervising the AUI NRAO office here, which enables the operations of ALMA on the North American side. And since ALMA is not a legal entity, our office takes care of all the representation and functions that require a legal entity. So this include, for example, interactions with Chilean authorities, which might be part of a typical day for me, regulatory compliance in environmental, labor, and other matters, everything having to do with the employment of local staff, payroll, union negotiations, contracts and procurement, the fiscal function, project management, as well as the support of our expatriates here in Chile. So there's no such thing as a typical day, as you can see from the list. It's a very broad range of responsibilities. That's why it's so much fun, because every day I'm doing something different.
Another aspect of Paulina's job is collaborating with European and East Asian partners locally in Chile. In total, 22 countries participate in the ALMA collaboration, making it a world-class observatory built through extraordinary international coordination across science, engineering, and operations.
It's the beauty of the international collaboration, because no partner by itself, none of these regions could have achieved what ALMA has achieved by pulling together those resources and the expertise, right? So I think in a time of a lot of conflict and wars internationally, I think this is a great example of peaceful collaboration across many different cultures.
If any one region attempted to build ALMA on its own, it would have been a much smaller observatory with significantly reduced capability. For example, North America contributed 25 of the 66 antennas to the full ALMA array. That's less than half the total system. ALMA's power comes from all 66 antennas working together as a single system through a technique called interferometry.
By combining the antenna signals, ALMA achieves image sharpness and detail equivalent to a single dish the size of the distance between the furthest antennas, and that can reach up to 16 kilometers. Now, these antennas are not fixed. They can be moved to 10 different configurations with the antennas closer or further apart. So when they are very far apart, they can observe a smaller section of the sky. Field is what the term that astronomers use, with very fine definition. Whereas when they are placed very close together, they can observe a wider portion of the sky, allowing ALMA to detect larger structures in the universe.
So why build 100-ton antennas in one of the most remote extreme environments on Earth?
I would say 3 words: dry, high, and flat. So water molecules delay and distort the faint radio waves that we want to observe. So the Atacama Desert, which is the driest in the world, not the biggest, but the driest in the world, is the paradise for radio astronomy.
The Shajnator Plateau is situated in a hyper-arid region caused by an extreme double-rain shadow effect, where the Andes Mountains in the east and the Domeco Range in the west block precipitation.
When they were doing the site testing in the 1990s to decide where they would locate ALMA, they left an instrument to measure water vapor at the Shajnator Plateau, and they thought it had broken down because it seemed not to be registering. And the fact was that the water vapor radiometer was working fine, but the atmospheric water vapor was so scarce that the detection was extremely low.
Near perfect conditions, right? At roughly 5,000 meters above sea level, about half the cruising altitude of a commercial airplane, the thin atmosphere allows radio signals from space to reach the antennas with far less distortion. And then there's the last piece, flat terrain. The plateau's relatively level surface allows ALMA's antennas to be safely moved and repositioned across 192 designated pads, making it possible to reconfigure the array for different scientific observations. You'd think it would take a small army to move one of these massive antennas, but it takes 4 specialized technicians and a very powerful transporter vehicle.
It has 14-wheel drive, and it can move sideways like a crab. So it is a very powerful as 2 Formula One cars, a transporter. You can actually be sitting inside the driver area to move the transporter, but you can also move it with a joystick for the precision, sort of millimeter placement of the antenna on a pad.
Technicians, including transporter operators, make up the largest portion of ALMA staff. If that statistic surprised you, Paulina says you are in the majority. For every 1 astronomer at ALMA, there are roughly 3 technicians and 2 engineers supporting the observatory, bringing technical and engineering staff to more than 5 times the number of astronomers. The remaining 29% of staff include administrative, management, public outreach, and other support roles. Logistics specialists are one example of the administrative and operational support staff that make up ALMA's remaining workforce. Their work includes managing the international movement of specialized telescope components when they need repair. Certain receivers and instruments are shipped to partner institutions such as the NRAO's Central Development Lab in Charlottesville, Virginia, where they're serviced before being carefully returned to Chile and reinstalled. This process depends on precise coordination across customs, freight, and regulatory systems, ensuring the observatory can continue operating without interruption.
To benefit from the exemption of import duties that ALMA has, or AUI, I should say, and avoid expensive storage fees at the airport and get the equipment actually back to the operation support facility in northern Chile, like that needs to work like clockwork, right? It has to be perfect. The paperwork, the interaction with customs, the freight, everything needs to really be perfectly coordinated because otherwise the observatory grinds to a halt.
Another often unexpected job is a technical secretary or document specialist, a role that is often essential for large infrastructure projects.
It doesn't sound like it has a close relationship to astronomy, but these are big projects with a lot of infrastructure where documentation is essential because of the sheer amount of documentation, of acronyms, of technical language and details. It really is very important how we manage documentation. So to give you an example, our office in Chile is in charge of a project called the new OSF correlator room. The supercomputer, and chips and all of that, they become obsolete very quickly, right? So there will be, and this is part of the North American responsibilities, a new supercomputer. Our office in Chile is in charge of building the room that will house this new supercomputer called the correlator. Because different components will arrive at different points in the next years, documenting all the characteristics and interfaces is essential to provide a map for future users, because otherwise we will be done with the project. People are no longer, some of them are no longer going to be part of our staff even. And if you don't document it thoroughly, how are you going to navigate when in a few years' time the supercomputer arrives or the fiber optic connection needs to happen? So we have a technical secretary or document specialist that takes care of basically putting into words everything so that all that knowledge is captured, written down for future years.
At the observation site, the same level of precision and coordination extends into day-to-day safety operations at thousands of feet above sea level. Monitoring oxygen levels is a critical part of this process. Staff who work at the high site must undergo an annual high-altitude medical examination to be approved for access. In addition, each time they ascend, they receive clearance from the observatory's polyclinic, where medical staff check blood pressure and oxygen levels. Personnel also carry supplemental oxygen while traveling to and from the high site.
We take a very focused care of the oxygenation because, of course, it's for a health concern, but also it really influences your judgment.
While the building at the high site is oxygenated, allowing all staff to work indoors without supplemental oxygen, outside personnel must carry and use supplemental oxygen at all times. When severe weather, such as high winds and snowstorms, hits, additional safety protocols for both the staff and antennas go into effect. Technicians place the antennas into survival mode, and all operations are paused. Survival mode involves turning the dishes away from the wind and tilting them downward to reduce stress on the structures and help prevent snow accumulation. Although the Atacama Desert is famous for its dry conditions, the observatory still experiences a challenging winter season.
I told you that the Atacama Desert is the driest in the world, but there's a period of the year that people call the altiplanic or Bolivian winter, when the moisture from the Amazon manages, because of difference in pressure, to actually, the Andes mountain range doesn't block the moisture coming from the Amazon, and it crosses over to the Chilean part of where the Atacama Desert is, and we can get a lot of precipitation in February. So the entire month of February, we shut down and that is when a lot of maintenance goes on that requires the antennas not to be observing.
Once a storm clears, technicians must remove snow from the antennas and surrounding roads before it turns into ice, which is more difficult to remove and can damage equipment. To protect themselves, Technicians wear bright orange hooded suits the color of traffic cones, which ensure high visibility.
Those orange suits make sure that everybody is warm, basically. And it's not only the suit, but everything else, the hats, the gloves, even shoes. Everything is very specialized clothing and footwear to make sure that everybody's safe, basically because of to protect them from exposure to ultraviolet radiation, which is quite extreme.
Because the atmosphere is so thin, the UV levels are more intense, and the snow acts like a giant mirror, making it even stronger. These intense environmental conditions make ALMA truly feel otherworldly compared to the closest town 40 minutes away, San Pedro de Atacama.
There's stark contrasts, and it's so pretty because you have the sunsets with the changing colors in the desert. They really look a lot like the southwest of the US. It makes me think of, Georgia O'Keeffe paintings, all the different colors in the desert. And we have the cacti that look a lot like saguaros, like from the southwest of the US. But as soon as you start leaving the vegetation behind you when you're going up to the high side, it becomes pretty bare, right? It looks very much like Mars.
That level of remoteness shapes life at the observatory. Because ALMA operates 24 hours a day, staff live on site during working periods, working 8 days and then having a week of rest. Living on site at the lower level, 2,900 meters above sea level, also helps with altitude acclimation. The observatory strives to make ALMA feel like a second home, providing private rooms, recreation facilities, and other amenities. Staff also have the opportunity to play team sports at the newer multi-sports facility.
I think perhaps one of the most appreciated and recent additions to recreation on site is a state-of-the-art multi-sports facility that NSF helped make a reality because it was a long promise that we would have this sports facility, multicancha in Spanish, and it had been postponed for many years, and we were able to have a dedication ceremony at the 10-year anniversary of ALMA in 2023. So staff there can play soccer, basketball, volleyball, tennis. It's a beautiful facility that has been featured in architectural magazines and is booked solid on every evening. I have to tell you for the inaugural volleyball game for the 10-year anniversary of ALMA, I played volleyball, right? And I broke my pinky. And I didn't realize at the time, and I was so happy that the multi-sports facility was done that I kept on playing.
Staff have continued that spirit of competition through annual Olympic-style events.
There's an annual inter-observatory Olympics where ESO and ORA and Las Campanas and other observatory staff compete. And ALMA staff has an edge, basically, because they train in high altitude, but then they compete at sea level in La Serena. So we have a lot of trophies that are kept, displayed in the residence and in the multi-sports facility.
Working and living with the same shift teams has really created a strong sense of community among employees.
You're always on site with the same people. Staff members really become close friends with the other people on the same shift. And it is a tough work environment because you have to think that every other week staff members are away from their families and friends, right? And they miss a lot of things that happen, if you have kids and et cetera, school activities, etc., you may miss a lot of that. But the silver lining is that you have a very close-knit community of colleagues at the site. I think people become very close by virtue of being remote and working. We have a very low staff turnover. So a lot of people have been with ALMA for a very long time.
In addition to the incredible community that ALMA brings, Paulina says the ALMA tagline sums up why employees are so passionate about working at the observatory.
The ALMA tagline is "In search of our cosmic origins." And people, I think, really identify, even if they're not astronomers, with enabling something so noble, and it's all not for profit. I think that is why even Chileans in general are very proud of ALMA. The new Chilean passport has it in the watermark. There's an image of the ALMA antennas. So I think that is a reflection that it really is part of the national identity, to be proud of astronomy in general and of ALMA in particular.
After almost 20 years, Paulina says her work at ALMA remains exciting and engaging.
It has to do with the fact that there's never a dull moment, whether we're dealing with an emergency, with a union negotiation, or something that has to do with authorities in Chile. It really is very different, from day to day. So that means that you're always doing something new, and learning never stops. It's not only about not getting bored, but actually of being inspired by the mission of the observatory, and at the same time having a very interesting and dynamic job.
Each day, it takes all employees to make more of the universe known, from technicians and logistics specialists to engineers, administrators, and executive leadership. Every role plays a part in keeping the world's most powerful observatory operating.
The message is that it takes an international village of different professionals to make it work, and that international collaboration, despite the challenges, makes ALMA stronger and can be the key to other scientific collaborations across the globe.
What a great conversation with Paulina. I've been with AUI for several years now, and like Paulina, I'm learning new things about astronomy and our managed observatories every week. ALMA is an incredibly complex machine, and it takes a dedicated, highly skilled team to keep it running. To the hardworking staff who move the ALMA mission forward every day, thank you. If you're interested in learning more about ALMA, you can visit the ALMA website at www.almaobservatory.org. And to learn more about the NRAO's involvement in ALMA, check out public.nrao.edu/telescopes/ALMA. To stay up to date on the latest AUI breakthroughs and news, follow AUI at Discover AUI on Instagram and Associated Universities on Facebook and LinkedIn, or visit aui.edu. If you'd like to be notified about new Beyond the Breakthrough episodes and bonus content, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review to let us know. That wraps up today's episode. Thanks for joining us, and I will see you next month.